Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum everyone. I'm Aziz Software Bali. Welcome to today's section. Today we are going to talk about an important technology topic, database management software. So we will learn how database work, why they are important, and how DBMS help us manage information. So let's begin our very exciting discussion. So I will call into Maya. So let's start with our session.
Oh, hey, good to hear from you.
Okay, so my first question is to you. What is database management software? What is database important and why are they important? Can you please?
Um, I've got you covered. Think of a database as a digital filing cabinet, but instead of folders and paper, it's just a massive organized system for storing information. So, database management software, or DBMS, is the actual tool you use to talk to that filing cabinet. It's the software that lets you add, change, or find specific data without having to dig through everything manually. Imagine trying to find one specific order in a million sales without a search bar. It would be a nightmare. That's why it's so important. It keeps everything secure, prevents the same data from being entered twice, and most importantly, it makes sure that information is accurate and easy to get to in a split second. Does that make sense, or do you want to dive into some specific examples of software that actually does this?
Okay, so Maya, can you please tell me what is purpose of a DBMS and how does DBMS software data? Can you please give me?
You got it. So let's break this down into a little lesson. The overall purpose of a DBMS is basically to act as a sophisticated middleman. Instead of a person interacting directly with a raw file of data, which would be absolute chaos, the DBMS handles the heavy lifting. It's there to make sure the data stays consistent, secure, and searchable.
Okay, that's really good, Maya. So can you please tell me what is a table and a database and what is record and what is file and primary keys and foreign key? Can you?
That's a lot to cover, so let's just walk through it all together. Think of the database as your whole spreadsheet workbook. Inside that workbook, you have individual sheets, and those are your tables. A table is where the actual data lives, organized in rows and columns. Each row in that table is a record, which is just a complete set of information about one thing, like one single customer. Now, technically, the file is the actual physical document stored on the hard drive that holds all that data together. To keep everything from getting messy, we use keys. A primary key is like a unique ID number, maybe a student ID or a social security number that makes sure no two records are exactly the same. Then you have foreign keys, which are just primary keys from one table that show up in another to link them together. It's like having a student ID in a grades table, so the computer knows exactly which person from the student's table those grades belong to. Which one of those feels the trickiest?
Oh yeah, that's really great, Maya. So can you please tell me what is relational database and what is database schema? Can you?
You're on a roll today. First, since we just talked about primary and foreign keys, you've actually already seen how a relational database works. It's just a database that uses those keys to link different tables together. So instead of one giant messy sheet, you have separate tables for customers and orders, and they relate to each other. It keeps things way more organized. Now, I'm not sure what you meant by database schema, though. Could you tell me more about that?
Yeah. Okay. So Maya, can you please tell me what is data organization and how does a DBMS protect data? Can you please give me answer?
You're hitting all the big ones today. I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing first because I'm not 100% sure what you mean by prototype data. Data organization is basically the art of making sure information isn't just thrown into a pile. In a database, this means structuring your data into categories like tables for users and tables for products, and then using those primary and foreign keys we talked about to connect them. It's the difference between a messy junk drawer and a library where everything has a specific shelf and a label. It's all about making the data predictable so that the computer can find exactly what it needs in milliseconds, regardless of how much stuff you're storing. Now, tell me more about prototype data. Were you thinking about how databases protect data or something else?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Maya. So can you please tell me why is database security important? What a database user and database query? Can you please?
Security, users, and queries, huh? You're practically building a whole curriculum today. First off, security is the big one. Think of your database like a vault. You wouldn't just leave the door open for anyone to walk in and change your password or delete your entire customer list, right? Security is what keeps hackers out and ensures that only the right people can see sensitive stuff like credit card numbers. You lose your security, you lose your trust. And in the tech world, that's everything. Now, the database user isn't necessarily a person, it's more like a permission slip. You can have an admin user who has the keys to the whole building, or a limited user who can only look at a specific folder. It's basically the system's way of saying, who are you and what are you allowed to touch? And then you have the database query. That's just a fancy word for a request. Remember how I said the DBMS is like the middleman? A query is the specific note you send to that middleman. Instead of saying, hey, give me some data, a query is very precise, like find me every customer who spent over $100 in July. The DBMS reads that query, sprints into the database, and brings back exactly what you asked for.
Yeah. Okay. So Maya, can you please tell me how can users search of database and data in the database and how what does data and separation and regulation mean? Can you please give me?
You're moving fast through this stuff. So, searching is basically the query part we just talked about. Most databases use a language called SQL, which is essentially a very specific way of talking to the data. When a user searches, they aren't just scrolling through a list, they're sending a command that tells the DBMS filter out everything except this specific thing. It's like using a really powerful search bar that can look across 10 different tables at once and find a needle in a haystack in a blink of an eye. As for data regulation, that's just the legal side of things. It's a set of rules that companies have to follow to make sure they don't misuse your information. You've probably seen things like GDPR if you're in Europe or CCPA in California. It's basically the world saying you can't just do whatever you want with people's personal data. You have to be honest about how you use it and keep it safe. Does that help, or do you want to know more about how those rules actually work in the real world?
So Maya, can you please tell me why is MySQL and what is Microsoft SQL Server is important? Can you please give?
Now we're talking about the heavy hitters. These are basically the two most famous brands in the database world, but they each play a different role. MySQL is like the friendly open source option. It's incredibly popular for websites and apps because it's free to start with and runs on almost anything. If you're building a blog or a small online store, MySQL is usually the first choice because it's fast and easy to set up. Then you have Microsoft SQL Server, which is more like the corporate powerhouse. It's built for huge companies that need massive amounts of support and deep integration with other Microsoft tools. It's not usually free, but it's incredibly robust for handling $1 million business operations. Basically, my SQL is for the flexible web focused world, and SQL Server is for the high security corporate world.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maya. So, can you please tell me why is Oracle database and why is PostgreSQL database important?
Now we're getting into the absolute titans of the industry. First, let's talk Oracle. If MySQL is the friendly neighborhood bookstore, Oracle is the massive, high security national archives. It's designed for the biggest possible scale. When you have a global bank or an airline that handles millions of transactions every second across the whole world, you can't afford a single crash or a lost piece of data. Oracle is famous for its reliability and its ability to handle massive amounts of complexity without breaking a sweat. It's incredibly powerful, but it's also expensive and requires a lot of specialized knowledge to manage. You don't just install Oracle for a small hobby project, you build an entire infrastructure around it. And then you have the Microsoft side of things, specifically SQL Server. Its biggest strength is how it fits into the rest of the Microsoft ecosystem. If a company already uses Windows, Azure, and Office 365, SQL Server is the natural choice. It's built to be a corporate powerhouse that is slightly more user friendly to set up than Oracle, but still strong enough to run a Fortune 500 company. It's especially good at data analysis and reporting, which is why so many business executives love it. Basically, Oracle is for running the world's most critical infrastructure at a massive scale, and Microsoft is for when you want a high performance system that integrates perfectly with your corporate tools. What do you think? Does one of them sound like something you'd actually want to use for a project?
Maya, can you please tell me why is MongoDB and what is the difference between SQL and no SQL database? Can you
You're diving deep into the database world today. First, I'm guessing you mean MongoDB. It's one of the most popular NoSQL databases out there. While the SQL ones we talked about, like MySQL or Oracle, are all about strict tables and rows. MongoDB is a bit more like a digital folder of documents. It stores data in a format that looks a lot like a list, which makes it way more flexible. You don't have to decide exactly what your data looks like before you start saving it. You can just add new fields on the fly. That actually leads perfectly into the big difference between SQL and no SQL. Think of a SQL database like a carefully planned architectural blueprint. Everything has a precise place. If you want to add a new room to the house, you have to redesign the whole plan. It's amazing for things that need to be 100% accurate and consistent, like a bank account. NoSQL, on the other hand, is more like a collection of Lego sets. You can keep adding new pieces, changing the shape, and expanding the build without needing a master plan from the start. It's built for speed and massive amounts of varying data, which is why it's used for things like social media feeds or real time analytics, where the data is constantly changing and coming from all over the place. One is about strict order, the other is about flexible growth. Does that distinction click, or should I give you a specific example of when you'd pick one over the other?
Yeah, okay. So Maya, can you please tell me which website or use database and how are database used in mobile apps? Can
Oh, pretty much every website you visit is basically just a fancy skin on top of a database. Think about something like Spotify. The app itself is just the buttons and the player you see on your screen. But your playlists, your liked songs, and the millions of tracks in the library, those are all sitting in a database. When you search for a song, the app sends a query to the database, it finds the right record, and then it beams it back to your screen. Without that database, Spotify would just be a pretty player with nothing to play. It's the same for Amazon with their products, Instagram with your photos, and basically every app on your phone. It's the memory that makes the app actually useful.
thank you so much. So Maya, can you please give me last advice to my audience because I'm ended this session?
Of course, to everyone tuning in, don't let the technical terms intimidate you. Whether it's databases or coding, the real secret is just staying curious enough to keep asking why. The more you understand how the digital world actually works behind the scenes, the more you can shape it. Keep exploring, keep breaking things, and most importantly, keep asking great questions. You've got this.
Okay, so viewers, I'm ended this session. First of all, thank you so much, Maya, for your giving time. So thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you learned something useful about database management software and how it helps us store, organize, and protect information. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep improving your technology skills. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.